I want to appreciate everybody for making this session and for ASEC giving us an opportunity to be able to share Impact for Hubs Part 2. Maybe you can just help me by showing me how many of us who are in this class here today were in the last class. Maybe just put your hand up on the on the participants there. It will allow you, or is it on the chat? It allows you to put your hand up, and that way I'm able to see how many of us were there for the last session. None of us was there. Or you can unmute yourself and say, I was here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Grace. Yes, we can.
Thank you, Maurice. Anybody else? Bless you, dear.
Thank you.
Okay, it looks like a lot of us are brand new to this session today, which means I have to do a bit of a recap. I'll just share my screen here real quick. Then we can be able to start from the beginning. Okay. All right. So in this session today, I was not planning on going through what B-Lab does and all that. So I'll just give a short recap of the last class that we had, and what B-Lab does, and then we can get in the meat of the session today and actually delve into the actual tool that will help us as hubs to be able to measure social impact for our hubs. So my name is Grace, like Wayne said, Wachori. I am the Engagement and Partnerships Lead at B-Lab Africa, or B-Lab East Africa. We are the NGO that's behind Certified B Corporation, and we believe in a better way of doing business. Our mission is to have an inclusive regenerative economic system for all people and planet. Basically, how can we be able to use businesses as a force for good? How can we use our business to actually solve the most pressing societal issues that we have in our continent? They said, that sounds like it's a description for a social enterprise, but even as a mainstream business, as fully commercial business, how can we be able to leverage on our businesses to be able to create impact socially and environmentally in the ecosystems? So as hubs, we have a membership of businesses under us, and we have programs under us. So as a hub, how are we able to actually do that? How can we be able to measure it? And that's what we're going to be going through today. For B-Lab East Africa, our mission is to be able to change the mindsets and culture shift how business is done in Africa in a way that we do not only consider purpose, or rather consider profit only, but consider purpose as well. We are in a continent where, we are living on survival mode, and we're always thinking about the bottom line and not the triple bottom line. We're always thinking about how do I make these ends meet? And we forget that the means actually matters. How I get to my product, how I get to my service, how I get to make that profit actually matters. Especially here in Kenya, we have seen a lot of good businesses that have come up, and they have hit, even NSE, they have employed a lot of people, but 5-10 years down the line, they're not there. We've seen the likes of Ochumi, we've seen the likes of Nakumat. We are seeing Taskies, we saw Shoplight. Big retail chains that have come and swept us, and they have been providing that employment that we need for our people, for our underserved groups, which will be women and probably youth. But after a time, they are gone. Why? Because they're not thinking about the longevity of their businesses, as they are taking into consideration how they make their governance, how they make they impact the communities from which they're hiring and sourcing from, how they're delivering these products that they have to their customers. And as B-Lab, we bring this angle where it is important to take care of your stakeholders and not just your shareholders as a business. And when you think about that, who are your shareholders? For shareholders, they are pretty direct. It's the people that own the business, but who are your stakeholders? And through the programs that we have and the tools that we have, we look at the stakeholders that you have. This will be the community that you're hiring and sourcing from. So those will be your suppliers, there'll be your distributors, there'll be any independent contractors that you have. and talk about workers, all the workers that you have, from those who are full time to those who are part time, from the very highest level of the organization to the very lowest level. When you think about your customers, the customers that are the ones that are recipients for your products and services, and about the environment in which you're operating in. Are you thinking about if you're taking that environment that is going to be able to sustain your business and carry your business way beyond you? We measure impact so that we have sustainability for our businesses. And so as B Lab, we're here to bring that, awareness that there's a better way of doing business by considering purpose with as much rigor as we do profit, and to being able to integrate them so that we don't have to choose one over the other, that we're able to have profit and purpose at the same time every day as we run our businesses without having to do something extra. And thus we advocate for something we call impact business models. We have tools that are able to help businesses figure out where they are at, and when they talk about impact. We have one tool that is completely targeted to the SDGs, and this one has been created in collaboration with the United Nations Global Compact. So it brings in the 10 principles of the UNGC, the BIA of BLAB, which I'll take you through, and the SDGs, and it's able to help businesses be able to see as it currently run and do their operations, which SDGs are they actually already working on. Then it allows you to pick a specific SDG, make some goals to it, and then be able to follow it. It's a very good a tool for team collaboration. But because it's able to pull different people, you can assign goals and can assign deadlines and be able to work through it. This tool, however, because it's very futuristic, is not verifiable. We're not able to go back and say, give me evidence, because it's projecting about the future, and therefore it's not used for external reporting. It can only be used for internal reporting. The other tool that we have as B Lab is called the B Impact Assessment Tool, and it's found on bimpactassessment.net. And that tool is where the core of the social and environmental impact measuring is done. It targets the 5 impact areas that I've talked about: the governance of the business, the workers, the community, the environment, and the customers. And we are able to look at how you're, as a business, as a hub, you're able to do this across the chain. And it's a scored tool. Out of 200, if you get to 80 points and above, you are eligible for going through the verification process, where you're asked to provide documentation. It's a very rigorous process, and if you've maintained that verified score of 80 points and above, then you are able to be certified as a B Corporation. A certified B Corporation is a company that has met the highest social and environmental standards, legal accountability, and public transparency. And you're able to join a community of such like-minded business leaders, and you're able to be in that community for about 3 years until it's time to recertify again and go through the whole recertification process again. So in a nutshell, that's what B Lab does. We're here to promote better business. We're here to support businesses to be able to measure their social and environmental impact. But we don't do that by looking at specific products or services or specific programs or specific, compliance. We do that as a holistic outlook of the organization. And today we are going to be piecing together how we can get the programs from our hubs to be able for them to align within our organization, so that we are able to actually measure that through the BIA and see how much you're eligible for certification. All right. I'll pause there and see if there's any question or clarification. Okay. Looking at there's none, we will just continue. We'll start with a recap from the last class that we had, and we talked about what we consider as sustainability, what we would consider as impact, and what we consider as CSR, which I have not written there. Maybe somebody can remind us, somebody who's in class, or even how you view sustainability being different from impact and being different from CSR, if at all you do so. You can just unmute yourself and say, or write in the chat. Hello. For this to work well, you guys have to be interactive and talk to me. So I welcome you. Let's start with, what is sustainability? Just put in 2 words there. What do you view as sustainability in the chat? No? Okay. Ability to be used for long. Thank you, Ivy. Sustainability to be the ability to be used for long. Maurice says paying your bills. Somebody else? Regenerative. Thank you, Leah. To be able to last long. Thank you, Robert. All right. So sustainability is, James says, creating long-term value. So sustainability would be that being regenerative, being able to last long, being able to create long-term value, being able to pay your bills in the long term, right? Being able to be used for long. When you think about sustainability for our businesses, we want our businesses to be here for even the next generation, for our children, for our children's children. How are we going to be able to maintain our businesses? Depending on the way we treat them today is what is going to determine if our businesses are here for the long term. Yes, not to be dependent, for them to be able to stand by themselves, to scale, and to be self-sufficient. All right. So what do we understand by the word impact? What do we understand by the word impact? When we talk about impact, what comes to mind? Thank you for writing. What comes to mind when we talk about impact? You can write on the chat or you can even unmute yourself. So Leah says making a change. Assumption is positive. Robert says community. When you think about impact, you're thinking about making a change that is positive. We're thinking about a community. Another answer that may be within us. When you think about impact, what are we thinking about? Right? So when you say impact, we're thinking about the evidence of the change that you want to see. Right? So how are you able to come to a place where you're actually seeing that impact that we want to see? Positive change that is happening within our community, within the intended recipients of our programs, within the intended recipients of our companies. The transformation, right, that we want to see through the businesses that we are running, through the programs that we are running, through the hubs that we are running. What is that transformation we want to see? That positive change we want to see, that evidence we want to see. So sustainability was a longevity of our businesses, right? So impact is the actual transformation, the actual evidence that we want to see. Then drop a word there that you would describe CSR, corporate social responsibility. How would that differ from sustainability and impact? Corporate social responsibility. Okay. Again, you are welcome to write on the chat or unmute yourself and just say what comes to your mind when you talk about corporate social responsibility. All right. Maury says giving back to the community to influence social change. Giving back to the community to influence social change. Thank you, Maurice, for that. It is definitely giving back to the community. Cindy says it's marketing, it's brand building. Yes, a lot of our businesses are using that to be able to create that brand, giving sort of like an emotional appeal. Ivy says it's giving with no return. CSR is giving with no return. So the key thing about CSR, yes, it's giving back to the community to influence social change. Yes, it's marketing. Business are using that to be able to build their brand up. So the brand value that we talked in the last class. And it's also giving with no return, not expecting anything in return. It's appreciating the community for allowing you to work there. Being able to take that stakeholder who is a community together with you, so to speak. But the key difference that I want you to note is that CSR being all this, it's done as of when we need it. It's very ad hoc. It's very PRN. It's when we have resources. It's when we feel like it. It's when it's the end of the year. It's when it will be a good opportunity. It's very ad hoc. It's only done when you feel like you have it, like when you have the money, when you have the time. But for us, we want to encourage having impact every day by how you're running your programs, by how you're running your organization, being able to pull in together through something we call impact business models, which I'll talk about a little later. So thank you for participating in that exercise. And we talked about how you can align your business to actually create impact. What are some of the things that you can decide you're going to align your hubs, align your programs to, that will help you map out that impact? A lot of us are very clear about each program that you have, what the mission is. but we don't know how to align those programs to specific, let's say, principles that will help us to track that impact that you're having. And once you're able to track it, then it's easier for you to be able to measure it. Remember, if you don't document it, it didn't exist. So you need to be able to track it in a documented way. That way you're able to choose a tool that will help you to measure that impact that you're having within your programs that become, and how it ties to your organizational goals. That way you're able to measure it with the BIA. And from this, we talked about the ESG principles, we talked about the UNGC principles, and we talked about the SDGs, among others, that you can decide to align your programs to, or you can align your businesses to. All right. And we talked about what do you need to think what do you need to consider when thinking about impact. So remember, you have to understand from the very word go what your organizational mission is, and what those inputs look like, what those outcomes looks like, and what impact looks like for you, and how do all that lead to sustainability for your business. So that roadmap needs to be very clear for you as a hub. While we are putting all these programs and you're hiring all these people and you're operating in these communities and we are in this environment, how does this long-term goal look like for us? So we need to consider, who are we hiring? What is the time needed for this impact collection? What are the resources that we need? What is the cost that we need? And you need to budget them, because you're making them to become part of your company design, which means they become part of your program designs. And then we will go through what are the benefits of measuring and verifying impact in a little bit. So when you're thinking about that strategy that will help you promote positive impact, like we've said, we want to see a change that is impact. We want to be able to save costs. And by doing so, we'll bring reductions to environmental impacts, right? We want to increase our revenues, and not just for us as hubs, but also for the businesses that we're working with. As enablers, we are working with businesses, and because we are startups and SMEs, businesses that do not have a lot of income. So how can we be able to save costs for them and be able to increase revenues? By improving the environment and benefiting the local economy that we are serving in. Also, how do we reduce the risks that we have identified? We are having, when we recognize the assumptions that we have, and then we map out the risks that you have, and we are trying to mitigate those risks. How do we bring them through? How do we reduce those risks through engagement with the stakeholders that I talked about, all these people that are involved in the business environment? How do we build a reputation for our hubs and for our programs by increasing environmental efficiency, improving environmental responsibility? Do you want to be known as the hubs that take care of that environment? And last time we talked about, the brand value. How do we increase impact by our brand value? How do we increase our reputation? How do we ensure that we remove our brand, our organizations, our programs' reputation being linked to risks, being linked to practices that do not promote environmental responsibility? Then within the organizations and the programs we have and the hubs that we have, how do we develop human capital through a better human resource management, which will lead us to improve access to capital, because we're already having better governance. Now, having said all this, we need to remember that as managers in these hubs, as key influencers of decision makers in our hubs, we need to have this mindset already that we want to be able to impact the community, want to be able to impact our workers, we want to be able to impact the environment, we want to make better decisions, because at the end of the day, it actually leads to a triple bottom line than just one bottom line. We're able to actually increase revenues by saving costs. We're able to reduce risk. We're able to build a reputation for our brand that will resonate through our workers, resonate through our communities, and resonate through our customers. Be able to increase that human capital skill levels, ability, competency of our workers that we have, and also increase our brand outlook, where we become visible and we become even attractive for organizations that will give us capital, just because we are actually having impact and not just saying it, but we are also having proper governance within our organizations. Now, when we talk about aligning our programs to impact, we need to understand, like I said, that organization mission. And it will always go, around governance, the decisions that are made, and how we consider our workers at the very top, and also how we implement programs. What kind of programs do we design at the top? So that organizational mission, again, needs to be very clear, and seeing the stakeholders it's going to affect, and also putting those plans in place for our hubs. Then when you come a little lower than that, we need to understand these programs that we set. What are the program impact objectives that we are having? It's also going to affect the people that are in governance who are making those decisions, the workers that are implementing these programs that we have, and the communities through which these programs are being implemented in. From there, we need to be very clear what our outcomes are and how that differs from our program impact. Remember, we said impact is the evidence. So for us to be able to separate the outcomes and the impact, we're going to look at the impact roadmap. I'm going to put off my video here. My internet is not as strong. So when you look at the impact map, we want to understand from our inputs to all the way to the impact. What does this look like in our projects, in our programs, and consequently in our hubs as an organization? So let's be clear. This is organization mission that we have, right? And we know exactly what inputs to put in there. Certain resources are needed to operate in our projects. So do we have those resources? Do we know who they are? Do we know where to get them? Do we know where to source from? That way we are saving costs and we are managing the risks that exist, if any. Then when you have those inputs, what we do, the activities that we do, will then help you to use to accomplish your planned activities. So there's a planned work that we have that will translate into the intended results that we have. So in the very immediate term, we'll have an output. There'll be the results that we see immediately after we implement an activity. And then after a little time, in the short term or medium term, we will see the outcome. These are not seen immediately, but they are seen at the end of the project activity. And then there's what difference we want to make. Is that positive or negative, primary or secondary long-term results produced by a project activity, whether it's directly or indirectly, whether it's intended or unintended. So as you're mapping out your programs, you want to be able to see the risks that you have, the assumptions that you have, the impact also that you intend to have, and look outside the box, not just what we want to see, but the activities that we're employing, but the outcomes that we're having. What other unintended, direct or indirect outcomes can we be able to achieve and thus impact through the programs that we have? So we start by understanding organizational mission and how it translates into the programs that we have. And in the programs that we have, not only are we going to map out just the outcomes of just the risk or the assumptions, we also want to map out what the impact looks like. And we want to be able to mitigate the negative outcomes that may come, the negative impact that may come, whether intended or unintended, and be able to consider that going forward. So I hope that's clear. I'm going to pause there and ask if there's any questions so far. Okay. Thank you, Ivy. So we ask ourselves, why do we measure social impact? And when I talk about social impact, I'm not just talking about social impact, but also environmental impact within the tool that B Lab uses, which is a B impact assessment tool that I sort of did how. Okay. So when you're measuring social impact will allow your organization to prove and improve. Proving impact demonstrates as to stakeholders, including your funders, that your organization is making a difference, or it's not. It will help you to track your performance, see what ethical standards you're doing with it, and sustainable practices that you can be able to employ within your organization. The quality of your products and services, in that, are they actually providing the intended purpose of it, right? The compliance of the guiding in-country laws. So our tool also asks about your compliance to the in-country laws. Managing to measure your performance on social and environmental impact in very specific ways, which I'll take you through shortly. It also helps you to rate yourself amongst your peers, whether they are by the same industry or by their business size. And by business size, we don't look at revenues, we look at the number of workers that you have. Our tools are for businesses that have, even if it's just working founders or 0 employees or even 1 employee, we're able to be able to provide you an opportunity to measure yourself based on the size of your organization. It also helps you to do external reporting, and it gives you that third party approval, whereby you have been verified by a third party and you've been found to be in good standing. I see we have something coming up in the chat. All right, I have a question here. Would you advise to use ESGs or SDGs as a guide? So I think, Maurice, here the key thing is to understand which tool do you want to be able to measure your impact with. So if you come back and say, I'm going to use the BIA to measure the tool, and you see, go through the tool and then see what are the actual things that are going to be asked in that. So either of these will be usable for your organization because they're going to align with the impact. If you're going to use the SDGs primarily, you probably want to use the SDG Action Manager. But the downside of it is that it will not be used for external reporting because it's not verifiable. You also ask a question on how we can be able to do this with limited resources. The key thing about our tools is to just be able to do some self-measurement is actually free. The SDG Action Manager and the BIA are free tools and they're online tools. So you can be able to actually access the tools, see how the layout is, see what questions are being asked to be able to advise you on what to align to, then on how to track it so that it's very easy for you to actually use this tool to measure yourself. Then if you get to the threshold as your business grows and you're able to get some incomes that will allow you to go through the verification process, then that is welcome. So I wouldn't say that a resource limitation, financial resource limitation would help you, would buy you from being able to actually start that self-reporting and that alignment for your impact, for your social and environmental impact. The tools are free, so it's very easy to be able to use the tools and see how to align yourself based on your organizational mission and how you want, and the tools that you want to be able to measure with. Okay. Is there a common definition for a program, duration, inputs, etc.? The common definition for the program would be the basic, project management work that we do, and then you'd slap it on with an impact angle. So it's the same thing. You want to be able to do your program and your project with the normal project management durations that you would, and definitions that you would use. You would use. The key thing is we would be including an impact angle to it. So, and what is feasible. So if you know that you want to be able to change or increase the skills, competency of a certain programs you're doing for the recipients of a certain program that you're doing, that will be able to be seen probably in the short term after your project is over. But if you want to be able to see a change in the community culture shift, mindset shift, that will probably take longer. So the mindsets would be really dependent on the objectives that you're trying to have and the impact that you're trying to have, or the objectives set out for your programs and the impact that you're trying to have. But the common definition will be really what you'd use for project management and then slapping on an impact angle. Thank you for that. Keep the questions coming as we go. We've talked about why you're measuring social impact and how that's going to be helpful for your organization. Then why verify your social impact. This is a process of analyzing how you and monitoring and managing the intended and unintended social consequences, both positive and negative. I should say for our BIA, we only measure the positive impact. But because it's a scored system, the lesser points you get, it's an implicated assumption that the higher negative impacts you're having. And the higher score that you have, the more positive impact that you're having. So by seeing where you're not scoring, you'll be able to see already on the negative impacts that you're having or no impact at all, that you can be able to switch around and turn into a positive impact. So when you look at your policies, when you look at the programs and the plans and the projects that you have, you'll be able to see this impact is what we want to see with this community and directly be able to attach or rather mirror that within your organization. Through our verification process, you are able to do something that we call protecting your mission. The mission that you intended for your projects, for your programs that are within the organizational mission, you're able to protect that, and so that they are able to live past any change of ownership, any succession, any buyouts that come in the future. How we do this, we do it in one of two ways. One, we have companies change the articles of the memorandum, the articles and memorandum of association, and change the language in there and say that profit maximization is not just for shareholders, but for stakeholders as well. And therefore, in any intended program, this will be the backbone of your mission, and therefore that will not change. It helps you differentiate from your competitors because of third-party accreditation. It increases your trust, it increases your credibility, and it lowers your risk in dealing with others. In this era, we are finding that millennials want to work more with responsible businesses. They want to work more with organizations that will treat them well, that will consider how the products get to them and the services get to the end user throughout the value chain. And therefore, you will get the right talent that will be able to be loyal to you, and the loyalty that will come to you as a hub, the loyalty that will come to you in your programs will be able to lead to longevity for the project and longevity for the hub as a whole. And because already that party approval has already happened, it has increased your credibility, has increased your trust. You seem more attractive to impact investors that will be able to seek you out and be able to provide that for you, because a bit of due diligence has already been done, and they can actually see by the reporting of your certification that you're actually having impact. All right. And that will be the BCOP certification, which I already talked about. We talked about that you cannot manage what you do not measure. And so in talking about the benefits of measurement and management, you want to actually be able to measure so that you can be able to manage it. It goes back to, are you tracking? It goes back to which principles have you aligned yourself to? It goes back to, for you to be able to know what to align yourself to, you need to know what is your mission, what is the objectives that you have, and what is your vision. So we need to map out the bigger picture and then see how our programs tie into that, so that we know what to align ourselves to in a way that you're able to track it according to the choice impact management system that you've chosen to help us, in this case, the BIA. Measurement helps a business to figure out the positive and negative effects that they're experiencing. So it's very important that you're able to see that. Sometimes we are just kind of skewed in the positive that you want to see, but not understanding based on the activities that you're doing, they might be very unintended negative effects, and we need to be able to kind of look out of that picture and be able to project that and actually take into consideration mitigation actions that can be done. When you look into the goals, they should be looking at the intentions and the constraints. Again, following up what I've said, we need to be able to put in place the right governance and resources to deliver consistently on those goals. So if you have limited resources, it's important to see, how can I be able to align or integrate the impact that I want with my everyday business running. That way, when I do my financing, when I do my budgets, I don't have to get a separate budget for impact, because it's already incorporated, it's already integrated with the for-profit activities that I am doing. So with the limited resources, because you've aligned your business that way, it will not be an issue for you going forward. But if you separate them, you're always going to be looking for additional resources for you to be able to meet those impact goals that you have. The ability to better demonstrate how your organization is making a difference. You're able to tell your narrative. You're able to tell your story. Sometimes it's hard to articulate that the programs that I'm having as a hub are actually having impact. But when you go through this process, it will be very, very easy for you to better demonstrate how your hub is actually making a difference, because you have the numbers to tell, you have the certification to tell, you have the actual sort of impact areas that are broken down in specific operational practices or impact business models that you have within your organization, and you can be able to demonstrate that very quickly. If you start collecting data early, it is easier to scale with data collection to scale with data collection when it's already entrenched, instead of trying to retrofit it. So again, starting when you're smaller, when your programs are smaller, when your hubs are smaller, when our businesses are smaller, it's so much better, so that as it grows, you scale with that in place, than trying to bring impact consideration when your organizations are much larger. That will be much harder, and it will require way more resources than if you started it when you're younger. So we'll be looking at the BIA. The BIA is a tool that we use for impact, for social and environmental impact consideration. It is divided into two key areas. There's a first segment of the BIA that is a determinant question, track determinant question. This one asks about the market that you're in, and for Africa, that would be emerging market. It asks about the industry that you're in. The industries are divided into manufacturing, agriculture, retail and wholesale, and service industry. The service will have service with major footprint or minor footprint. So if you're just offering a service and you don't have any tangible, let's say, infrastructure, that will be service with minor footprint. If you have service that your service industry, in the service industry, and you have tangible infrastructure like a building or vehicles or the like to be able to deliver these services, that will be major environmental footprint, because you have to be able to consider the carbon footprint that you're leaving behind. And the second part of the tool has questions that will be operational practices versus IBMs. IBMs with impact business models. The operational practices will be asking about the questions of activities that you do day to day. Those practices that you do day to day. The question you want to ask yourself, are we doing things impactfully? And this will be applying to all organizations, and it's always very visible. Whereas the IBMs will be something that you have actually made part of your company design. It is something specific about your company DNA that goes above and beyond to create impact. The difference here would be it's something that you're doing impactful things and not doing things impactfully. These ones in organizations are older, usually rare and very self-selected. And my encouragement to you today is a hub that's already here. If you're younger and you don't have this, maybe start thinking about assuming this into your organization so that you're able to scale with it and you're able to actually have impact the same way as you're trying to have profit every day. Example that we give to understand the difference through this is in the hiring process. So let's say you want to hire a diverse workforce and you leave it at that. That is very open-ended, it's very broad, and sometimes not even trackable. But if you're able to put it as an impact business model, you're able to actually assign a specific target population, and you'll be saying that we will target individuals with barriers to employment. And this will be people that are in communities that would probably be systematically marginalized, or communities that will not have access as easily as compared to other communities to resources, right? And once you hire those individuals from these underserved populations, you would have to be able to kind of harness their competencies and therefore provide a training workforce development program that will help them upskill their skills. So I like to give this example. If you hire Grace, right? You hire me, I'm in Nairobi, I'm sort of educated, I have access to opportunities that I'm at ASEC. And you hire somebody from Turkana. Those are very two different key people. If you hire Grace today and you don't deliver what you promised to deliver to Grace, Grace could leave you in a heartbeat tomorrow. But if you hire someone from Turkana, first of all, they feel that they are considered because you went through the whole systematic marginalization and you came in and consciously target them. And because you know that they don't have access to these resources, probably their competency rates are not as high as Grace's. You'll have to spend some money in training them. But what will happen is, if you train this person, they'll be loyal to your business. They'll be loyal to your program. They'll be loyal to your cause. And they'll stick around you longer, which means that you'll have low attrition rates, which means you'll have workers who are happy and satisfied, and they'll give their loyalty to you, which means longevity for your business in the long term, which means you end up saving costs in the orientation process, as opposed to Grace who leaves tomorrow and you hire another Grace and they leave again, right? So that's the difference that you give, so that you're able to understand the difference between operational practices and the IBMs. So the BIA covers these 5 impact areas: the governance, the workers, community, environment, and the customers. Again, understanding your organizational mission and how that goes down into your programs, into your projects, then being able to really identify the objectives that you have, the impact objectives that you have for each of your programs, so that you're able to tie them back to the organizational mission. And when you tie them to the organizational mission after you've been able to identify that, then you're able to use this tool to be able to mark that. Under governance, you have questions that will ask you about your mission, your transparency, and there's an IBM about mission locked, the one we talked about, where you solidify the mission of the organization. In the workers section, you will ask questions about financial security, health and wellness, their career development, their empowerment. The IBMs that are under the workers section will be, do you allow your workers to own part of your business? That would be worker owned. And you have specific programs that are geared towards workforce deployment. Are they part of the company design? Are they policies? Are they frameworks that can actually be tracked, can hold you accountable? You can be able to measure against and verify that you're actually doing it. In the community section, it will ask questions about the diversity of your suppliers, of your distributors. What kind of economic impact is your business having in the community? Are you allowing your workers to have any civic engagement, or is the company having any civic engagement and giving to your community? The IBMs that fall under that is supply chain poverty alleviation. So when you're dealing with the suppliers and the distributors, are you paying them, at the market value, or are you paying them a little bit more? That way they're able to empower their households and therefore their communities. Do you have a framework, a policy that allows you to give, designed to give? So, for example, if you feel that you're purely a commercial business and you don't have any social or environmental angle about your business model, you could adopt this an impact business model that is designed to give you, say, for example, for the profit that we make in a year, I will give away an extra percentage of that to a charitable cause, and that allows you to actually have impact without doing CSR, without doing anything else, because you're able to track it and make it part of your company design. And the environment will look at the different environmental things, angles. So there's environmental management, where you can be able to manage the environment. You can have specific programs that allow you to target either the air, the climate, water, land, and life. The specific IBMs under that will be the environmentally beneficial products and services. So let's say you have a product or a service that is geared towards benefiting the environment, or number two, that is geared towards conserving the environment. For example, we have a B Corp that is involved in the training of game rangers. So they pay for the training of game rangers. That way, the game rangers are able to work in the game reserves, and they're able to bring the conservation of wildlife. All right. Environmentally beneficial products will be probably you recycle directly, or you provide recycling opportunities. When we talk about customers, we want to understand what is your customer stewardship. How do you listen to their benefits? How do you listen to their feedback? Right? Do you provide warranties for them? Do you take the feedback that they give you and put it back right into the products and services that you offer them? When we talk about the impact business models, in there we have the socially beneficial products and services. So the products that you have, are they geared towards the benefit of that customer? Or are you serving and targeting underserved populations? For example, a company that will be doing some value addition in packing something like yams, drying them, and then packing them in very small packagings and selling them at, like, say, like 50 shillings. At that price point, it is targeting underserved population, bottom of the pyramid. So everybody is able to afford it. And because it has a health nutritional impact towards it, it's able to be a beneficial product to that person. If you're providing a service that is, let's say, sustainable consulting, you're able to help businesses to be able to make strategy on how to be sustainable and environmentally friendly, then that service will be socially beneficial. I'm going to pause there and see if we have any question. Question or comment? You can unmute yourself. You can write on the chat. You can ask a question. Okay. Seeing there's no question, I'm going to share my screen again, and I'll show you the actual tool itself. So when you get to the dashboard, again, the URL is beimpactassessment.net at the very top there. You'll be able to go through the first set of questions that was about track determinant, and then it will open you up into the actual impact assessment tool. And this is how the tool looks like. So the dashboard of it will tell you that how many businesses have been able to use that tool. It shows you the overall score, the operational practices score, the IBM score, and the completion rate at which you have. It shows you the impact areas. They're separated into the 5 impact areas plus a disclosure questionnaire. And I'm just going to sort of dive into workers section. So this work section at the top, again, it will show you the operational score, the IBM score, tell you what the impact area evaluates your company's contribution to its employees' financial, physical, professional, and social well-being. Through topics such as payment of a living wage, benefits, and the like. And ask you a bunch of questions about how you, the number of employees you have, the part-time, the temporary workers that you have, what is their financial security, how do you pay them, what is the ratio between the highest and the lowest paid, and questions like that. What retirement programs do you have for them, financial services you have for them. This will be the employees that will be you've employed, whether it's in your programs or whether it's in your organization, or if they are the same, right? Questions on health, wellness, and safety. Okay. All right. We'll have questions on that. How do you provide healthcare. So do you give them what the government advocates, or rather already gives, or do you go above and beyond that? Do you have any supplementary health benefits that you provide for your workers? What is your career development like? We can look at a question. So one of the questions it will ask you, does your company provide any of the following training opportunities to workers for professional development? So you'll say yes, we have an onboarding process for new employees. We offer ongoing training on core job responsibilities. We have a policy to encourage internal promotions and hiring for advanced positions. We have cross skills training for career advancements or transitions. Or we don't provide any career specific life skills training, or we facilitate or have an allocated budget for external professional development opportunities, or even provide reimbursement for programs for intensive continuing education credentials. And I know some of these questions can appeal to some of us who have smaller businesses and feel we are not there yet. This is not for me. I'd encourage you not to see it that way and encourage you to see it as a learning tool. These are some of the things that you're going to implement in your business that way you're able to track what kind of impact you're having with your workers. So use it as a learning tool. See what it is that with the limited resources that you have that you can be able to integrate already so that you're able to track what kind of impact you're having with your workers. Okay. We can go to community. You can see another section of the tool and what it asks. This one will ask about your company's contribution to the economic and social well-being of the communities in which it operates. Topics through diversity and inclusion, job creation, civic engagement, philanthropy. Right? So let's look at one of your questions. So when it asks about diversity, it wants to know, is your company majority owned or led by individuals from any of the following underrepresented groups? So what is the definition of underrepresented groups within your country? And it will allow you to put any other that's not included here. So is it majority led by women or owned by women, underrepresented individuals, groups of the veteran, of the LGBTQ? Here would have people that are able differently, would have marginalized communities, and the like. All right. Economic impact, let's say. What percentage of the company expenses was spent on independent suppliers? Somebody is unmuted. Kindly mute yourself. Okay. All right. Thank you for muting yourself. So it asks you different questions. How does your company take part in civic engagement? So do you provide financial or in-kind donations? Do you have community investments? Do you do pro bono services? Do you advocate for adopting improved social or environmental policies and performance? Partnership with charitable organizations or membership with community organizations? All right. It will ask you specific questions that you can adopt if you don't already have, and if you're already working at this, you can be able to see where you are. And once you get to that, you're able to see. So somebody is asking about the scoring. So you'll see the scoring up here on the page. Remember, the total possible score is 200 points. You need 80 points to go into verification. So we advocate that you answer this tool as conservative as possible, so that when you go into the verification, you don't end up losing points if you're not able to verify something. If you get into 80 points, you're able to go to verification. You're asked to provide documentation, to provide evidence, proof. And if you still maintain a verified score of 80 points and above, then you are eligible to become a B Corp certified company. This tool is used by for-profit businesses. If you have an angle of where you've registered your company as for-profit. Here in Kenya, unfortunately, we don't have a law yet that allows us to register your company as a social enterprise unless you've registered it as an association. If you register it as an association and you cannot become a B Corp, you can use the tool to just be able to do some self-reporting and see where you are at. If you're a for-profit business, you can be able to use this profit to go into certification. And if you don't get certification, it's a proper way to be able to show you how to include impact business models into your organization. Okay, let's look at the last one, which is the environment. It will ask you questions about, environmental management, what environmental efficiency practices are in place in a majority of the companies, offices, and plants. So do you use energy saving strategies? Do you use systems for increasing water efficiency? Do you monitor and improve air quality? construction operations for sustainable materials. A lot of us harvest water. We ensure that we're using solar. We put our lights off. So these are some of the things that you can say. We are using LED energy saver bulbs, stuff like that. You can be able to put in here. Counting, your gas emissions and how you offset them and the like. How you get rid of your waste. In Nairobi, if you use county resources to be able to just do waste garbage, we all know that it ends up in a landfill somewhere. And so you won't get as many points as somebody who actually looks for companies that can be able to use that waste as raw materials or recycle them. So it helps you open up your thinking, broadens your thinking. That way you're able to consider even things that you've not been able. So I'd encourage you to log into this tool, start going through it, see what applies for you, see what is validating for you, identify the gaps that you have, make some goals towards it. This sort of rectangle at the end here helps you bookmark that question. This one helps you to set a goal. When you set a goal, you are able to say, this is what I want to attain, and I want to attain it by this date, and I can be able to add my team members to be able to help me to get to this. So if you don't get to the 80 points, we don't send you away. We prove you on an improvement track, and we help you build up those points to 80 and be able to certify that. If you're not able to certify, adopt these impact business models and use them in your organizations. That way you're able to translate them into your programs, and that way your programs are actually going out to seek the most they can on social and environmental impact performance. I'll end it there. I see our time is 5 minutes past the time. I have some questions. To be able to see the pricing of the certification, we would go to our website, which is b-labafrica.net. And when you come to this website of ours, you are able to see our pricing at Become a B Corp. There's a whole process. The page shows you the process on how to become a B Corp. If it can open up. And it will show you what a B Corp is, what is other B Corps that have been able to be in the market, the certification process of it, each step along the way, and then it shows you how much the certification fees are. These ones are tagged to your annual sales, which is also revenue, and you would pay the certification fee that's corresponding to the tier that you're in as an annual fee. So if you're making between $0 to $50,000 a year, you'll pay $300 a year. Remember, certification is done every 3 years, so you'd go through the whole certification process again in 3 years. We've seen companies that go above and beyond, or they even drop below the bar that they cannot even certify. And especially now, the pandemic is with us, and we're having to really pilot and change and switch up things. I don't know if I've left out any other question. Yeah, we don't have a specific law right now that allows us to register companies as social enterprise, but we have a startup bill that's coming up that I think is being read in the House right now, and we have a social enterprise law also that's in the House right now. Until those laws are passed, so far we don't have that easily accessible. All right, I think I've answered all the questions, and I'll stop there if there's no other question. What happens if you do not get certified? Are there legal implications? So no, you just remain as a company as you are. So B Corp certification in Kenya, we only have the language that's already passed by the government that will allow your business to switch, that your profit maximization is not just for shareholders but for stakeholders as well. We only have the legislation where you're able to register your company as a benefit corporation in Rwanda so far. So if you're not able to certify, it's not a done deal, right? We'll help you work on your improvement and get to that 80 points where you can be able to certify eventually. But if the organization of your business, in that you're incorporated as maybe a company by guarantee or an association, that you cannot go into certification, but you can use the tool to actually measure how you're doing, and adopt the impact business models, and that can help you with your internal reporting, unfortunately. Are there any community builders that are B certified by B-Lab in Africa? I don't understand when you say community builders, but if you want to see our community of B Corps, they are on our website here, and you'll be able to come to this page and see who our B Corps are. We have B Corps across Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, South Africa, Mozambique. We have quite a couple across the country, and you're able to see them here and even their contact information. We are industry agnostic and we are size agnostic. So that tool helps you to pull relevant questions for the industry that you're in and the size that you're in, and you're able to answer those specific questions. And I hope that all of us can work towards becoming better businesses that will help us to solve the most pressing problems that we have in our economy, which is a fast growing economy, and businesses ought to use their business as a force for good so that you're able to make that sustainable for even the generations to come. I think I'll end it there now that there is no other question, and I'll give it back to you. Is it Wayne or Michelle? Thank you very much. I'm sure Wayne and Michelle will be sharing my contact details, but I'll put them in the chat as well. And if you have any question, you're able to reach me. I also serve as a secretary for ASEC, so I'm available to you in different platforms. Thank you so much, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Grace. So I believe we've come to the end of our session. Thank you for that insightful session on creating an impact as an organization. I'm sure we've all learned a lot. I want to say thank you all for making the time to attend this webinar. We shall share a recording of the webinar on YouTube and also on our newsletter. And many thanks. With that, please let's close the session.